Hello, BookTube. Well, the people have spoken. I did a video last week in which I went used book hunting. Something that I've done often. I've done many videos like that on this channel, but I admit I slowed down a lot. My girls, my old dogs, got sick, and then they stopped getting well. They just were sick all the time, and then they each, in turn, started actively dying. And I needed to get away while that was happening when they were sick, but once they were actively dying, I had to stay all the time. It terrified them for me to go. And also, not to be macabre, but when your dogs get to that point and you have freedom of movement, if you're not expected at a job or anything like that, you don't want to be away from them. The chance that something truly horrible will go wrong and you will miss it. You won't be there to help out. So I stopped. I stopped a lot of used book hunting, and at the same time, my mailing here was continuing like gangbusters, 10 books a day. And I don't know, those two things sort of started commenting on each other. I started realizing, well, okay, you're getting tons of books in the mail delivered to your doorstep that fascinate you. Most of them fascinate you. True, they're not old favorites of yours, and you're not often picking them. But they do, it's more than enough to satisfy anyone's reading. And on the other hand, there's that, and there's also the fact that even when the girls were gone, I had a little puppy. And the freedom to be with that little puppy almost all the time, which is something that dog owners dream about. They dream about being able to spend all the time with their dog. A lot of dog owners that I know, including I was one of them forever and ever. It's a terrible feeling. You get used to it. But it's a terrible feeling to say goodbye to your dog in the morning and know that you're not going to see them again for a long period of time. How long was that in my life? Where I said to upturned faces of dogs in the morning goodbye, and then I knew, knowing that I was going to be gone for 12 hours, that's an eternity for a dog who can't leave on their own and can't really do anything. So one way or another, these external factors started decreasing the number and amount of times that I go to a used bookstore, that I go used book hunting. And I guess it's become something of a rarity on this channel, and a lot of you are new. 1,000 of you have joined in the last year. So that when I did go used book hunting, and also another element involved is that I now make free, I want you all to know my email. I leave it in every video so you can email about anything you want. And as a result, that last video when I went used book hunting, I got bombarded with messages from people saying, boy, that was a lot of fun. Don't take it wrong. We enjoy your videos, but the used book videos are so enjoyable for a number of different reasons. One reason that came up over and over again is that we have a chance to find these books, which is very different from, the mail hauls that I do every day where the books haven't come out yet. No one has access to them. And also another thing that came up over and over again is that although people saying to me, although your thoughts and ruminations about the new books that you get are interesting, when it's used books, you have not only that, but an actual experience with them. You know what you're talking about as opposed to just knowing, the general atmosphere of a new book. And that I guess is one way or another, the consensus was that if I go used book hunting, you want me to make sure to film it, and that you'd like it if I went used book hunting a little more often. So I did. I went used book hunting today. And I found a small stack of books that I want to show you. I went to the Brattle bookshop here in Boston. And it was a nightmare because I made the mistake of taking the Orange Line on the Massachusetts subway system, and that is a bad idea at the best of times. And today was the worst of times. So, and for a number of different reasons. I mean, the line itself was broken. There were long delays at every inch of the way, and most of them you're frozen underground, so you can't do anything about it. But even at the very beginning, when I got on the subway car that was docked at the station, that was filling up with passengers ready to take off, I sat down, a handful of other people sat down, and then a woman came on board, sat down, and said at the top of her lungs, I'm not going to scream because I'll upset the dog, but she said at the top of her lungs, I don't have a drop of African blood in me. And then she paused, and everybody looked at her right away because the natural hopeful first reaction here is that she's talking to someone on her phone. Everyone, all of us at the same time, saw that she wasn't. And just as she was saying again, oh, I don't have a drop of African blood in me, virtually everybody in the car just stood up and got out to go to another. I did. I immediately. And I was saying, I was looking at other people saying, well, she's going to do this for the whole ride. But crazy people don't follow you to the next car, so you just have to move. You just have to. All of us just got up and trooped to another car so that we couldn't hear her say that, and that was just the beginning. I should have taken that as an omen. A younger and saucier Steve, who became moltenly furious with people like that, because although she's nuts, she's not nuts. You know what I mean? She knows perfectly well what she's doing, and if she had the mid 20th century amount of self-control, she wouldn't have done it. Those outbursts would have been much rarer. She certainly wouldn't have done it on display. She wasn't shouting anything until she got on the subway car, until she had an audience. The younger and sassier Steve, probably infuriated by that behavior of hers, would have said, well, sister, I hate to break this to you, but if you're Homo sapien, you have a drop of African blood in you. We all come from Africa. Not to mention the fact that she was as brown as polished mahogany, so I don't know what she was thinking. Maybe Martian blood? I don't know. But anyway, I suffered for you. And I went to the Brattle bookshop, and of course the thing with the Brattle bookshop is that you shop the outdoor carts. It's a used bookstore, and it's a really good one, but they have a lot next door that's literally full of $1, $3, and $5 used book carts. And you can, today was beautiful weather, and you can just prowl those outside carts to your heart's content. I saw a bunch of people out there just filling their arms with books. Half the carts today were $1 books. So even if $3 and $5 added up too fast for you, even if $3 and $5 was too rich for your blood, you still had dozens of a dozen carts of $1 books. So I found a bunch of stuff, and it goes the gamut of the Brattle. Some of the Brattle is, you want second chances. Some of the Brattle is you want to experiment. Some of the Brattle is you have particular things you're looking for, and you're maybe lightly hoping that they'll be there. If you strongly hope, they won't be there, and neither will anything else that you want. You cannot bully the karma of the Brattle sale cards. You cannot do it. But the first thing that I found is a specialty thing, and I admit I want them all. I only found one today, and I really wish, if I had found 10, I would have got all 10. It's a little bit hard to find. I don't, if you ever see it and you have no interest in it yourself, be sure to let me know. It's Dorothy Sayers. It's the Lord Peter Wimsey mysteries. But it's these vaguely, these wonderful, distinctive cover illustrations by Marie Michal, who did the illustrations for all of the Lord Peter Wimsey novels, and also a collection of short stories, and in hardcover. This cover artwork was reproduced for the paperback run of Dorothy Sayers that looked just like this, only smaller. The gray spine, the black type on the spine, and that sort of thing. But as much as I love those mass market paperbacks, and as much as I've had the whole run of them many times, they do fall apart. And I would rather have the hardcovers. And I know that they were made. I have seen this and a couple of others, and also the collection of Peter Wimsey short stories in this format. And I want them all in this format. I want a whole shelf of Dorothy Sayers hardcovers. Because these are the kind of books that I know I am just going to revisit. I know that I am. So I want them all, and I want them all in exactly the format that I like. This is 5 Red Herrings from the 1950s, I think, or maybe I think this is the 1950s. And this is, 1931. Good Lord. This is, unfortunately, this is Dorothy Sayers' Scottish novel. It's a Scottish murder mystery. So there's a little town in Scotland, and it's an artist colony, and there are all sorts of artists that go there. And as you can see on the cover there, and one of those artists is incredibly obnoxious to everyone, and it looks like he dies. He falls into the river, and it looks like what he was doing was painting, and then took a step back from his easel to look at it, and forgot that he had a big drop behind him and just fell to his death. But Peter Wimsey is sure that murder was involved. He only has to see the environment of the body to be sure that murder was involved. And to see the environment of the body, he just drives out. He tells the people at the local bar that it's a particular passion of his. And Dorothy Sayers puts it wonderfully. Puts it just wonderfully. It was a marvelous day in late August, and Whimsy's soul purred within him as he pushed the car along. The road from Kirkcudbright to Newton Stewart is of a varied loveliness hard to surpass, and with a sky full of bright sun and rolling cloud banks, hedges filled with flowers, and a well-made road, a lively engine, and the prospect of a good corpse at the end of it, Lord Peter's cup of happiness was full. He was a man who loved simple pleasures. And that he immediately realizes that it's murder and tries to convince the local authorities that it is. I love the book, but an author should never be tempted to use dialect. And Dorothy Sayers was only human, and she uses dialect in this book. Unfortunately, quite a bit of it. But I'm happy to have it, and it is right now the only Marie Michel illustrated hardcover of Dorothy Sayers that I have. The only one. So I'm hoping that whoever dumped this on the Brattle dumped a bunch of others, and that maybe I will be able to find them. If not, maybe I'll find them elsewhere. But those are the ones that I want. I don't want the mass markets. There were also trade paperbacks. I don't want those either. I want these in this format. So that was thing number one. Thing number two is a used book thing that I set for myself. Another series of books that I know I want. I know I want the whole series because I know that I revisit them. I know that I love them. Is the Patrick O'Brian, Aubrey and Maturin novels. His Napoleonic seafaring novels that if you have not read, you simply must. You simply must. But I slowly but surely I've been accumulating all of them in hardcover. The trade paperbacks are nice. I got all the trade paperbacks in one shot once at a library book sale, but they aren't sturdy enough. I go through these things. I annotate them. I reread them. I love them. And I have almost all the hardcovers, and then I found a hardcover at a used bookstore and got it and realized it was a double. And then I realized, you know what you need to do? You need to look through your whole shelf and note which ones you don't have. And I did that, but because I'm lame, I didn't make an actual note of it. I just made a mental note of it. And you're never going to remember that. And I didn't. The most that I remembered, I found a book at the Brattle today, and the most that I remembered is that the ones that I need are odd numbered. I think 9, 11, and 13. I think. I still haven't made a note of it, even though I've been back here some time. But it turns out that, as luck would have it, that was at least enough to get me one that I needed. So I got, this is number 11. This is the reverse of the medal. So now I have one. This is not a double, thank God. This is not a double, so I can add this to my shelf of Aubrey and Maturin. Then the next one is a double. I got it intentionally because it was $1, and I've paid quite a bit for these in the past. This is Dante. This is the Inferno. It's an English language translation, although it's bilingual. It's facing pages. And it's by Alan Mandelbaum, who I think is as disloyal as it is to Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I think he is my favorite English Dante. And I like them, especially in the Book of the Month Club. They did this elaborate edition with illustrations by Barry Moser. And I like that a lot. I think, I don't know, it's a tough call. The Barnes & Noble leather-bound edition of the Divine Comedy has Gustave Doré engravings all throughout, and that's amazing. But I love this edition too. I guess it never hurts to have more than one. I found Inferno for $1. I already have this. I already have this trilogy in the room. I was remembering the famous saying from a couple of centuries ago that a true book person will have 3 copies of every book. One to lend, assuming you're never going to get it back, one to keep without touching, and one to read. So I don't want to get to that point. But I couldn't pass this up. And if like, for instance, if I go back to the Brattle, I will be looking for more Aubrey and Maturin novels, for more Lord Peter Wimsey novels in hardcover, and also for the rest of this Barry Moser illustrated Divine Comedy. Actually, let me show you an illustration as long as we look at that. Look at how beautiful those are. Oh, my. Quite different from Gustave Doré, of course, but really evocative in their own way. So I got that, even though that is just a cardinal rule that I broke at the Brattle. I have too many books here. I know I have fewer books than Mark Richardson. I have far fewer books than Todd at Todd's Bursting Bookcase. I have far fewer books than Jason at Byways and Bookland, the other four bookmen of the apocalypse. I have far fewer books than those gentlemen, but I have more books than I want. So I shouldn't have got a double, but I did. Then this next one, great big thing that I read it and I got an advance copy. Then I reread it in the finished copy because it's huge and it's full of erudition, and I loved it. And the minute I saw this big fat trade paperback at the Brattle, I realized I didn't have it, and I don't know why that is. This is by Peter Watson, who's was a great old, tried and true hack writer of the best kind, who can bring brains and readability to any subject at all. This is a great subject. This is a great subject. This is The German Genius. And it is an enormous book about just what it says on the title. Just that this is all about the great intellectual renaissance of pre-World War II Germany in psychology and sociology and science and literary interpretation and history and you name it, poetry, literature. The book starts with a whole bunch of epigrams, a whole bunch of quick comments about Germany, and of course Nazi Germany hangs like a shadow over a lot of those comments because, as Watson makes clear in his introduction, for far too many people, almost everybody, Germany is synonymous with Nazis. That is just awful. It would be bad enough anyway. It'd be bad enough even if it happened to a mongrel country like America. But it happened to a country like Germany, whose intellectual and artistic heritage is so incredibly rich. I think at heart that's probably what made the Nazi seizure of power all the worse, all the more horrifying, is that it was an exact reversal. Actually, an exact reversal. Victor Klemperer is the famous diarist we saw in my library tour. He has one of those epigrams at the beginning of this book, plain and simple, saying the Nazis are anti-German, which was absolutely true. They were barbarians. But this is much more than just than that. This is a potted biographies of those great figures and a really engaging write-up of those great intellectual achievements. I was very happy to see it, and I'll be happy to put it in the history section. Once I'm done, I'm gonna dip into it rather heavily. And then the last thing is something that also springs from a library tour. In my library tour right now, we're in the little book room where we just finished a whole week of bookish books, of collections of reviews and bookish essays and prefaces and whatnot. And one of the things I showed you was a big volume of collected reviews and prefaces and essays by John Updike, whose fiction I don't like at all. And when I was holding up that really nice floppy trade paperback, I said that I would really like to find all the other reprints of his various nonfiction collections in that edition. And I found one that I didn't even know existed. This is his first one. This is his first collection of stuff. This is called Assorted Prose. See, it's this format, the same one that we saw More Matter in. So I now have two of those. But I could definitely stand more. They're all made. Hugging the Shore and Odd Jobs, those are made in these formats. I just haven't run across them. But I ran across this one, and this is going to be interesting because this is Updike from the 1960s. This is Updike when he was very young. So who knows how it will read in comparison. But even if it's a big difference, I'd be willing to bet that this will end up in the little book room. I'd be willing to bet that it will. The Lord Peter Wimsey and the Patrick O'Brien will both end up in the little book room. So anyway, that was my Brattle haul today. A fairly good one, even though not very big. That's good. I don't want these things to be huge. I'm trying to be discriminating when I'm at the Brattle instead of just hoovering up anything that's even remotely interesting. So we have John Updike, Assorted Prose. We have The German Genius by Peter Watson. We have the Mandelbaum Inferno in this big Book of the Month Club paperback, this quality book paperback. Then we have The Reverse of the Medal by Patrick O'Brien. So I have two more, and then my Patrick O'Brien series will be complete. And then a new series that I'm starting to hunt for. This is The Five Red Herrings in this hardcover with this dust jacket illustration. So a fun visit to the Brattle. I don't know. I'll probably go back next week if you people insist. I'll just keep going back, either the Brattle or somewhere else. But I'm going to wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.